Hello ladies and gents, welcome to this video, and this video is all about the likes and dislikes of the Sony A7S III, what I liked and what I disliked. I only had a few days with the camera, so it's not enough days to make a review of the camera, so I thought that I should make a video about what I like and what I don't like. So without wasting any more time, let's get right into it. So the first thing I like is the flip out screen. It is amazing to have a flip out screen in a Sony camera, especially their full frame line. I've been using Sony for a while. They don't have a flip out screen, so you cannot actually see videos, you cannot actually make videos like these, like vlogging, or you're filming yourself, especially in a situation like this, on the go, run and gun, and you are by yourself and you're seeing how the thing looks. So I'm looking into the flip out screen and I can see how the framing is and how I am. So on top of that, on the flip out screen, they added touchscreen functionality with the menu system. So you can actually touch to change the menus and navigate the menu system. And also regarding menus, another thing I like is that there is a new menu system, which is a different user interface compared to the old user interface, the old menu system on the A7 or A7S line previously on all the Sony mirrorless cameras. Another thing I like is the form factor, especially the grip. The grip is actually bigger this time compared to the A7 III and the A7S II. So it's easier to grab the camera. And on top of it, if you're using a bigger lens, like I'm using the 24-70 Zeiss f4, it's not the big like other 24-70s, but it's pretty big compared to the primes, like the 28mm, and it gives a nice balance to the camera. However, I think this is the sweet spot. I don't think Sony should go past this point in size, because I like small form factors. I was pretty okay with the A7 III. I think the R5, the Canon R5 and the R6 a little bigger for my hands, for my liking. But form factor, something that I like, especially the grip. And also another thing that I like is they have an HDMI out, a full HDMI out. So if you want to monitor yourself with an external recorder, or you want to record separately with an external recorder, like the Ninja line of recorders, you can. So, and it's full HDMI. The mini HDMI has been replaced by the full HDMI out. Another thing that I like is the color signs, especially in picture profile 3 that I'm shooting with right now. If you don't want to color grade, but you want to get a color that's close to the natural colors that you're seeing, I think picture profile 3 on the A7S III is pretty good. The biggest thing about this camera is all the frame rates that it can shoot in 4K. So it can shoot up to 4K 120 frames per second, 4K 60 frames per second, 4K 24 frames per second, 30 frames per second. So you get all the 4K codecs, or the frame rates, all the way up until 4K 120 frames per second. So it is pretty good. It comes in handy if you want to shoot crispy slow-mo. I like that part that Sony did not hold back, and they gave us all the frame rates that we can use, especially in 4K. Regarding frame rates, I think this transitions into another thing I like, is that the camera does not overheat. Unless you're shooting 4K 120 frames per second for a prolonged period of time, but it does not overheat in 4K 24 frames per second, 4K 60 frames per second. I actually tested it. I let it run in 4K 24 frames per second. The card ran out, the CF Express card, because they don't have that much storage. That ran out after an hour and 30 minutes. This one actually, the battery still stayed to 50%, and the camera didn't overheat. So another thing I like is the 10-bit 422 recording in non-log or regular mode. So basically, out of the box, you can choose a setting with the standard picture profile, 10-bit 422 recording It's a higher bitrate compared to 8-bit that we used to get from the previous A7S II and A7 III cameras. So that is good for color grading, comes in handy. So that is a very good feature that I like. So another thing that I like is the recording formats that the A7S III gives you, and you can pick and choose which one you want to record in. Unlike the R5 or the R6, it's actually comes in handy if you have an older editing machine. So the best format to record 4K video is the A7S 4K. That's the best one. The other two, the A7S HS 4K and the A7S SI 4K, might be taxing on your machine if it's an older one. So for smooth editing without like video frame rates dropping, A7S 4K is the one that I like. Another thing I like is the slightly better low light capabilities. I think it's a stop better. I have the A7S II, and when I did the low light comparison, I think the A7S III is a little better than the A7S II in absolute low light, basically with just one light or the lamp lighting the whole situation. So I think that's a good feature that I like, but again, it's very negligible, so technically I think it's a stop better. So another thing I like is the autofocus. I think A7S III right now is basically on par with the Canon dual pixel autofocus. As you can see, I'm actually moving and it's tracking me pretty seamlessly, and if I want to focus in the behind on the light on the lamp, touch to focus, it just focuses there. Back to my face, I tap on the screen so it tracks my eye. So I think it's on par. I think it's very much on par with the R5 and the R6's dual pixel autofocus. So A7S III autofocus, I like it very much. Comes in handy if you're shooting by yourself, like videos like this. So yeah, this feature is very important to me. So I like the feature about the battery life. I think Sony didn't used to have that much battery life previously. With the A7S II, it's horrible with battery life. I use it, I suffer from it, but they improved it dramatically on the A7 III. So with the A7S III right now, the battery life is pretty good. I actually recorded when I was doing the overheating test. The battery didn't die. An hour and a half, still had close to 60% battery left. So I'm assuming you can go, I think, 2.5 hours continuously recording 4K video with one battery. So that's immense. I like to have my cameras run the whole day with one battery. Same goes with my phone. So battery life is very important. A7S III delivers on that. So the last like is a very important one for me personally, and this is the reason this comes very close to actually replacing my GH4, my old trusted Lieutenant from 2014. So this is the camera that shot my wedding in 4K. It was a camera before its time, and it had a flip out screen, and it actually recorded my wedding for 3 hours straight, and this had great battery life. So the A7S III comes pretty close to this when it was at its prime with the battery life, and on top of it there's no recording limit. So this Panasonic, we gotta give it to Panasonic. I don't know, people are talking about the no recording limit now, and this is like a killer feature. It is a killer feature for the Sony cameras, but Panasonic has been actually offering it for a long time. GH5, GH4. So this GH4 had no recording limit, didn't overheat. The A7S III, no recording limit, doesn't overheat. And if you're filming events, recording events, you have no idea that the no recording limit is such a handy feature. All right, so now let's go over the stuff that I don't like about this camera. So the dislikes. Number one is basically it's only 12 megapixels for stills. I know it's not marketed as a hybrid camera or a stills photography camera, but considering I've been using the A7S, the first one, A7S II, and now I'm getting my hands on the A7S III. All of them have 12 megapixel, and it's basically, yeah, enhances the low light ability, but I think Sony could have figured out in 3 generations to increase the megapixels a little bit to maybe 16 megapixels or 18 megapixels. 18 would have been pretty good, so this could have been a perfect hybrid camera. Still, 12 megapixels does the job if you're doing it for social media or digital stuff, but if you want to print it out and blow it up, I think 12 megapixels will struggle a little bit. So I don't like the fact that it's only just 12 megapixels. So the next one is basically a feature that I hoped that it will have at this price point at $3,500 is 8K. 8K video. I know it's way ahead of its time, but we have an R5, Canon R5 that shoots 8K video. We have a Samsung Galaxy Ultra which shoots 8K video. I know the Ultra is a cell phone camera, but cell phone sensor, but the R5 shoots 8K, and even for 15 minutes, I think it shoots 8K. It shoots 8K for 15 minutes, 12 to 15 minutes before it overheats. I would have loved to have this feature on the A7S III. 8K feature. There should be a time like 10 minutes, or maybe give it for 15 minutes or 12 minutes. That way the camera is future proofed, and you can have this for a long time. And once the 8K TVs and the 8K monitors comes around, like 3 years from now or 2 years from now, this camera is solid. So no 8K feature is a bummer. I was hoping for it. Let's talk about the SD cards. Basically the CF Express card Type A. This is a new format that Sony just came out with the A7S III. If you want to shoot 4K 120 frames per second, you need this CF Express Type A card. It is expensive. It adds to the cost of the camera. You have to buy this additionally, and on top of it, you can use SD cards to record most of the frame rates, but 4K 120 frames per second works best with these Type A CF Express card, and this is something that I don't like. You have to just go and get these cards and get a card reader for that. It adds to the cost. So Sony could have just kept the SD card, and we could have just recorded over there. So alright, so this is all about the likes and dislikes of the A7S III from my point of view. I hope you guys liked this video and found this helpful. So if you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you disliked it, give it a thumbs down. But please do not forget to subscribe to the channel, turn that bell notification icon so you can get more content like this, get notifications. And until next time, this is Kazi signing out. Take care.